Initial installation. Step 1. Setting post length. Preset your post length as shown on the EFCO erection drawings. Use the top of 2 corner posts of a rack along with 2 EFCO Gold forks to hold a post for the presetting to length operation. First, place the load release pin in the right hole to adjust the length of the post to within 3 inches of its required length. Fully insert the load release pin to put the post in the extended position. Then insert the linch pin in the inner hole of the load release pin. Second, fine-tune the post to length with the sleeve nut adjustment on the shoring post. Fine-tuning will save time later. Step 2, Option 1. Setting up the first post using tripods for stability. Determine the most advantageous location to start the erection of EFCO deck equipment. This is usually in a corner or along 2 intersecting walls for lateral support. Chalk only a single straight line to set the center line of the first row of EFCO deck. Chalk only one X-axis and one Y-axis, and the EFCO deck system will take care of the rest. Set up your first post by using the EFCO deck tripod for stability. Unfold the tripod and evenly space out the legs. Hook the post with the tripod and secure by tightening the wing nut. Step 2, Option 2, setting up a module of EasyDeck. An alternate method of starting an EFCO deck setup is to start out with a more stable first module of EasyDeck. This single 4-post setup with EasyDeck panels will give a firm, stable pillar of strength for lateral bracing, both during the setting up of EFCO deck and during the pouring operation. EasyDeck and EFCO deck are designed to work together. Once the EasyDeck module is set, you can tie on in all 4 directions with EFCO deck primary beams and secondary beams. Most times, EFCO deck users will strip out the handset EFCO deck a piece at a time. When it is time to move the EasyDeck stabilization module as a full setup, move it assembled from floor to floor. Step 3. Hang a primary beam. At this point, we should have a corner post either stabilized with a tripod or an EasyDeck module with an Easy Shore post. Hang a primary beam from the drop head. Step 4. Adding a second post. Using a second post, hook the free sloping end of the primary beam with the drop head of the second post and push up until the primary beam is level and the post is vertical. Stabilize the second post with another tripod. Step 5. Second set of posts. Repeat steps 3 and 4 for another set of posts separated by your secondary beam spacing. Step 6. Adding secondary beams. The next step can best be handled by a readily available rolling scaffold supplied by others. From the rolling scaffold, lay in secondary beams and space each to match the 4x8 plywood sheet layout. Step 7. Continue setup. Continue working from your 4-post startup tower by hanging primary beams, pushing up with posts, and then dropping in secondary beams between the primary beams. Step 8. Stabilizing edges. Stabilize all free edges of the EFCO deck shoring by installing X-bracing, handrails, and tie-down brackets before allowing individuals up on top of the shoring for plywood installation. Again, follow all safety guidelines and applicable codes at all times. Step 9. Lateral bracing requirement. Appropriate and adequate lateral bracing for an EFCO deck setup is an absolute requirement for safety. A qualified customer job site engineer must check each total setup for lateral stability. Many times the in-place concrete columns and shear walls provide this lateral bracing as long as the setup is caught between or attached to the permanent concrete part of the structure. Without the building structure's vertical concrete for stability, EasyDeck towers can provide the lateral bracing. The diagonal 2x4 added bracing to the posts is another way to provide lateral bracing. Step 10. Drilling a plywood deck for penetrations. There are only a few times when penetrations are required through the plywood deck. As an example, when a pipe must be poured in place in the concrete without a sleeve forming a hole, or without drilling a hole in the slab after the slab has been poured. As a warning, a penetration drilled through the plywood after the shoring setup is in place must not touch or penetrate the EFCO deck shorehead, primary beam, or secondary beam. Failing to follow this warning, drilling through the primary and/or secondary beams could cause a shoring failure of the member and also the destruction and replacement of the shoring support beams. The EFCO deck system using a plywood deck makes it easy to complete the plywood closure around concrete columns and along walls. A concrete column can fall anywhere on the grid of primary aluminum beams in one direction and secondary lightweight steel beams in the other direction. Because plywood will normally cantilever 5 inches beyond a supporting member, this many times will handle closures up to walls. If the center line of a post falls more than 7 inches away from a column or wall, the EFCO system uses the drawer effect to move standard primary beams in to meet the existing concrete column. With the EFCO deck system, you can place primary beams on both sides of a column and use a standard 2x4 or 4x4 wood beam to span between them. This way, the primary beam will fit up snug against the column and the wood will easily support the plywood deck. See your EFCO erection drawings for more detail.